Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Looks over the middle, second guesses, fires, throws. Does he make the catch in the end zone? Yes! Touchdown! Oladipo to win it.
Another one!
He got
Another one!
Oladipo!
Another one! Huge hole! He's at the 30! He's gonna go! 10, 5, touchdown! Jonathan Taylor!
Galloway finds Rob Finnessy, who fires the three, and
he hit it!
Now, from the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios, here's your host, Jim Coyle.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. John, the producer, in right now for Jim Coyle. Kevin Brockway in with us, as always, on Tuesdays from CNHI Papers. The mystery of Jim Coyle continues. It's another day waiting on when he'll show up. But until then, we've got a couple things to talk about. Kevin, how are you doing this morning?
Good morning, John. How are you?
I'm doing just fine. I broke out a brand new Red Hot Chili Peppers shirt today. I didn't know I was going to be showing it on camera, but here I am. I guess I picked a perfect day to wear a new rock and roll t-shirt.
Love the Chili Peppers. You know, that's one of my favorite karaoke songs is Other Side. I've done that.
Other Side, that's a good one, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing them down here in Louisville for Louder Than Life in the fall, which will be a really fun time, I'm sure.
Oh, yeah, no, that sounds like an excellent festival, right? A lot of good bands coming downtown.
Yeah, lots of good bands. Last year they had Metallica for 2 nights. It's always, every year it's gotten bigger and bigger, and this year the big draw is Red Hot Chili Peppers, obviously. So that'll be fun, but big news around Bloomington right now. Broke yesterday. Jordan Holes is going to be joining Indiana basketball as the team and recruiting coordinator.
Yeah, a very good move and an interesting move. He's been on Jim's show before. He's had some success, obviously overseas in Germany. He's a Bloomington kid, Bloomington South kid, and he's got those grassroots ties. He's got the development academy, J3, and an AAU team that he's been coaching.
Yep.
So I think it's a good move. He's probably got a lot of ties around the state. He'll be very good with the in-state recruiting, and then I think his name alone will help nationally. And it's another example of bringing someone home. Didn't necessarily work out with Dane Fife, but we'll see how it works out here with Jordan. And I think Mike Woodson, who's an Indiana guy, wants that. He wants that family atmosphere for sure.
Yeah, Tom Crean had some very nice things to say on Twitter yesterday. He said, not only is Jordan Holes one of the best people and players I've ever coached, but he is an absolute stone-cold winner. He's won everywhere he's been. Congratulations to Indiana basketball for hiring Jordan. You are getting a future great and an incredible family with the Holes. So one thing I have noticed about Tom Crean, even when he's been I know he's not in Georgia anymore, but even when he was at Georgia, he was always a very vocal supporter of Indiana basketball when he was away from the program.
Yeah, and that's not easy to do. I mean, sometimes, bridges are, when you get fired from a job, it's easy to harbor some bitterness, some animosity, and so forth. So, kudos to Tom. His name is being thrown around in Evansville. I don't know if you've known that, yes, John, but which would be interesting if he did return to the state at that level. To kind of resurrect himself. I mean, Georgia is just such a hard job to win in basketball. I mean, there's literally been, you can go back to Hugh Durham and Dominique Wilkins and Vern Fleming when they went to the Final Four in the early 80s, but there just has not been, any level of success since then. And for as close as they are to Atlanta, they can't recruit Atlanta. They've never been able to recruit Atlanta at Georgia. I mean, it's just it's a tough situation. And Tom Crean, I think, walked into a difficult job, a difficult situation, and could not get the momentum going. He'd recruit players. I heard stories about players. They wouldn't go to class, and then they transferred to Auburn.
Mm-hmm.
They were good players. Katie Johnson, some other guys. It was just, I think it was a no-win situation for him down there. It was a hard job to take. Maybe that's why Thad Matta had second thoughts about that job, because they originally approached him. And so we'll see if Tom gets another shot. It will be interesting to see at a lower level like Evansville what he could do.
Now, Jim has vocally said that he doesn't think, I can't quote him for sure, but I feel like he said before that A, he shouldn't take the job, and 2, why would he want to take the Evansville job? So, Kevin, what would be your response to something like that?
Well, I mean, if you love to coach, you love to coach. I mean, that's the whole thing. If it's in your blood and if it's passionate, it would be like telling Jim, why would you go to this station, but you had no other stations available to you? You know, it's kind of one of those things. I think all these guys that have coached at the highest level have a belief they could, turn anything around or do any job. Now, he had belief that he could win at Georgia, and I mean that was a tough situation. Evansville sounds like a tough situation, but if you have belief that you can do it, and I think it's sometimes at that level, it might be easier to turn around a program than say at the Power 5 level.
And Tom Crean, for some reason, has always been attracted to the tough jobs. I mean, he came to Indiana at the worst possible time for him and took that 6-25 team, whatever it was, in his first year, and eventually created Big Ten title contenders. So it's not like it's something that he's unaccustomed to doing. It's just a lot harder to do at certain places like Georgia than it is at an Indiana.
Yeah, and I think that I think the thing is when you walk into that situation, you're given a little rope. I think even at a school like Indiana, when he walked into it, I think in 2009, because of the sanctions, there were he had a little leeway to build it back up. Now, Evansville is probably a situation where they've had a lot. They had the Walter McCarty mess a couple of years ago. That was kind of a crazy season, right? They upset Kentucky, and everyone thinks it's program's on the come, and then you have a scandal that breaks out involving Walter McCarty and students, and he's gone, and they haven't quite recovered from that. So, I mean, I think that would be like, he would probably get a little rope down there in Evansville. Georgia, maybe he didn't get as much rope because, Mark Fox had done some decent things there, and there was a thought that if you're a good enough coach, you could maybe get him to the tournament. But it didn't quite work out that way.
Yeah. We'll just have to see what happens with Tom Crean next. Let's take a look at the Andy Moore Honda hotline. We've got a few people in there already. Dwayne says good morning to us. Tebow says Dwayne. It was only a matter of time for Jordan Hulse to join the IU staff. Sounded like he was ready to get out of playing and join IU in some capacity. Yeah, absolutely. Because, I mean, as much as fun it could be going overseas when you're new into the pros, I'm sure once you're married, have a family, have kids like he does, it takes a toll after you've done it so many years, having to go back and forth from Indiana to Germany or wherever else he may have played between his the end of his college career and now.
Yeah, and those guys, they do okay. They make 6-figure salaries. A lot of times it's tax-free. A lot of times they pick up the housing for you there. But it's tough too. I mean, I've heard some funny stories overseas about people smoke in the gym. Sometimes they throw coins at you and stuff and everything like that. The fans there are a little nuts in some of those European venues. I don't know what's specifically like in Germany, but I've talked to a lot of former players from Florida that went overseas, and they told me some crazy stories about there. Sometimes you don't get paid on time there, and people, and we had Mo Creek on, remember, with in the Ukraine and the war, and the owner trying to tell him, oh, everything's gonna be fine, it'll be okay, right? So
imagine.
It's like I said, it's you're in a different country and you're trying to make your way. You've got to learn the language, but there's some interesting experiences too, probably culturally, and getting to know people overseas that's probably quite rewarding. But for him, he's a Bloomington South kid. He's coming back home. I'm curious. It'll be interesting to see. I don't know how much he's not going to be able to do much in the way of on-court stuff, but I think just his presence, it'll be interesting to see the effect it has on Anthony Leal, who has drawn a lot of comparisons. Bloomington South kid, right? Mr. Basketball, really good shooter. But, that aspect of the game hasn't materialized for Anthony yet, but he's sticking it out. And maybe this offseason, if Jordan comes back and he works with him extensively as he has in the past, but, maybe this is the year that the light comes on for a guy like Anthony Leal and he realizes that potential. People forget he was a Mr. Basketball in Indiana, and he was for a reason. And if they can really get him going, and he can be that knockdown shooter, that would add a really nice element to this IU team in 2022, 2023.
Absolutely. Let's take a look at the Andy Moore Honda hotline one more time. Tony V says, hiya, folks. Hiya, Tony V. Robert Carter says, good morning. Michael Music, good morning. Tebow, former IU receiver and NFL broadcaster Rhett Lewis to join Don Fisher as IU football radio analyst. I did see that yesterday, too.
Yes, good move. And I've talked to Rhett before. I think when I did a story on the 1-year anniversary of Chris Beatty's death, because he was one of Chris's teammates, and really great guy. Rhett is. He'll be a good representative to IU. Really good, accomplished broadcaster, and he'll add a lot of insight to that team. And football is approaching September 2nd.
It is.
And while last year was a season of great expectations, this year is a season of no expectations. But
it almost seems like Indiana football thrive. I mean, I guess it has to, because it's never had it any other way. It likes to not have the expectations. And I think Tom Allen wants to have more seasons like 2 years ago, obviously. But it's going to be a lot harder to do on a regular year in and year out basis. But at the same time, wherever you're most comfortable, which is not in the spotlight, it almost seems like success can find itself in those areas more often at a place like Indiana than elsewhere.
Yeah, and I think the early season schedule is a lot more manageable. Now, Illinois is a team that, certainly under Brett Bielema, year 2 has got some positive momentum going. I mean, they were 5-7. They nearly made a bowl game. They beat Penn State, right? They beat Nebraska. So that's a team that that's a program that's on the rise a little bit, but it's not like quite the juggernaut that Iowa was last year. And you got it home Friday night here. Then you go to Cincinnati, but Cincinnati is a depleted team from last year. No,
exactly.
Gardner,
and I've tried mentioning that to Jim before. I don't think Jim realizes quite yet that the Desmond Ritter-led Cincinnati Bearcats are not going to be the same at all. This is not going to be a college football playoff team that you're going to play against this season.
Yeah, and they had a number of draft picks. Ford, the running back, went also, and they had a bunch of guys. The receiver went to the Colts, right? Pierce. So
that's right.
You had a number of guys off that team. So we'll see. I mean, there's a number of guys off Indiana too, though. I mean, Micah McFadden was the heart and soul of that defense. I mean, can Cam Jones step in and be that guy, that leader of the defense the way Micah was? The quarterback position. I mean, is Connor Bazelak the answer, or will they go with Jack Tuttle? Or will McCulley, finally realize his potential a little bit and throw the ball with more accuracy in the spring and, give the coaches some confidence that he could do the job. So it's going to be it'll be an interesting fall. But yeah, with not much in the way of expectations coming into this season, I think that, maybe Indiana will be able to sneak up on some guys. And maybe Tom Allen calling the defense this year could help. But I think what happened was the combination of Indiana kind of laying an egg and basketball starting to come back a little bit under Mike Woodson.
It's almost like a balancing act in Bloomington. I can't recall a season, or at least in recent memory, obviously, me being 24 years old, where both the basketball and football program were doing well at the same time.
Yeah, 87, I think, was an interesting year because Mallory had the football program going really well, and basketball won a national championship, and they got to the Peach Bowl in football. So that must
there
have
you
been
go. That's a great combination of seasons.
That must have been the high time because I remember when Indiana played Tennessee in the Peach Bowl. I did a retrospective story to that because they were playing again in the Gator Bowl about that time, and Anthony Thompson talked about how the campus was really buzzing because he had basketball and football going really well at the same time.
Well, we'll just have to see. Who knows if Tom Allen's team will get things turned around, but it's about time for our first break. We will see if we can get a hold of Jim Coyle. If not, we will have Mike DeCourcy coming up. You're listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by the WOW Network. We'll be right back right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting...
All right, before I call Jim again, will you take the lead with Mike DeCourcy, at least
Sure.
Start off? Because I I know whenever you all have him on, it's typically not the IU stuff, unless IU has a really big story going on. And I can either step out like I normally do and it just be you and Mike, or I can do whatever you want me to do. Whenever I don't have adequate time to prepare for stuff like this, I just have no idea what to do sometimes.
Sure.
What would you rather do? I want to make you the most comfortable, obviously.
I mean, I could start out with Mike, but you could jump in a little bit if you want to, if you'd like to.
Okay. I'll see. What I'll do is whenever he gets in here, I'll let him know that I'll toss it to you once we get out of the break. And then depending on where your all's conversation goes, we'll see.
Yeah.
Hey, Mike. Oh, you have microphone problems again. See you in a second. Yeah, I saw him jump in the bottom and it looked like he was like, oh, Jim's not here kind of thing. I kind of saw that expression on his face. We'll see. Hey, Mike, just a quick little not debriefer, but briefer real quick while we have a second. So I'm going to try to get a hold of Jim again. He's been unreachable this morning for some reason. So I've kind of taken over. This has happened before.
Okay.
But what's going to happen is I'm going to bring us back from break. Kevin's going to kind of take the lead with you. And then you two will go back and forth. I'm going to try to get a hold of Jim. And if not, I'll pop in and, join the discussion if needed.
Okay.
If that sounds okay. We do things on the fly here at Indiana Sports Beat Radio sometimes. You normally don't see my face on camera, obviously. How have you been, Mike?
Good. Absolutely. How about you?
I have been great. Just fabulous on this lovely Tuesday morning. I'm glad that we're finally getting a week of sunshine. I'm tired of the rain.
Oh, man.
It's overcast here, actually, this morning.
Where are you at, Kevin? I don't know if I've ever asked you.
Bloomington. Yeah, I'm in Bloomington.
Okay, I didn't know you were in Bloomington.
Yep.
And Mike, you're in northern Indianapolis area?
Yeah, Fishers.
Beautiful Fishers.
I'm not even in Indiana. I'm down in the Louisville area. Let's see what we got. All right, 30 seconds. So I'll bring us back in, and Kevin, I'll toss to you, and then I'm going to step out for a second.
You can find complete coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and plenty more. Simply go to thehoosier.com and sign up. It's free. You can also find full episodes of Indiana Sports Beat Radio on the homepage or on the station every week, Monday through Friday. If we're not on a station where you live, we should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by Feast Market and Cellar. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. John, the producer, filling in right now for Jim. Kevin Brockway with us as always, and joining us from the Sporting News, Fox, and Big Ten Network is Mike DeCourcy. How's it going, Mike?
I am very well this morning. How are you, John? How are you, Kevin?
Good morning, Mike. How are you?
Fantastic. Yeah, Kevin, I'm going to toss this over to you for a second, and I will hop back in shortly. So,
Mike, I guess the big news of the week, or Monday, was NCAA clarifies compensation rules, but it's crackdown likely. Sounds like they're kind of going after collectives, or some of the news that's been breaking about using NIL for recruiting inducements. What are your thoughts? And can the NCAA do this in light of this, or are the lawsuits going to fly?
Well, just saying this doesn't cause any reason for a lawsuit. Making this announcement doesn't put anybody's collective out of business. But I think what it does is it forces the people who are running the collectives to adhere to a more established line. If you're going to be involved in these collectives, you have to be very circumspect, not necessarily about the business of the collective. That's another matter we'll talk about. But in terms of the recruitment of players who are available out of high school, or especially through the transfer portal, you have to be more careful. I mean, the announcement of the announcement of the NIL deal in relation to Nigel Pack at Miami probably wasn't the best approach. It would have been much better, and probably in the future will happen this way, that a Nigel Pack will choose Miami, and then a subsequent announcement will come out about involvement in an NIL deal. The optics of the Nigel Pack situation bothered a lot of people in college athletics. The optics of some other potential transfers have bothered people in the business based on the concept of tampering. I talked to a Division I athletic director yesterday who told me that not only is it football and men's basketball, but there are players being recruited off of every roster in every sport in all of college athletics. So it's not just men's and women's. Football and men's basketball, the two highest revenue sports, but it's also lacrosse or softball or track and field. It's happening in a variety of different sports, and they really want to calm that down. I read another article yesterday that talked about the businesses of these collectives, that one of the problems that they may face if they're going to try to create or affirm 501c3 status, that you have to be doing something that is worthy of that. And so they have to make sure that these collectives are all doing what they say they're doing if they want to be nonprofits. And that's, I when I was talking to that athletic director, I said, the one thing that everybody on your side of this should be doing is just calming down, just calm, just chill out, because some of this will take care of itself. Some of this will there will be less enthusiasm for this later on if it doesn't produce significant victories, significant change in the team structure. A lot of this will calm down. This is our first foray into this, where you have basically NIL with very few rules and transfers with no year in residence. This is our first real endeavor into this. So you can't automatically assume that what's happening now will be what happens forever. There's a lot of pent up enthusiasm for this. Some from those who had been doing business under the table that can now put it into the light, and others from, we can try to help good old State U. Like, great, let's do it. And then eventually, when good old State U is the same good old State U, only you're down a few $1,000s, and maybe you're not quite as enthusiastic about giving that money because it didn't result in any material change. So I think that it's an overreaction to assume that everything that is going on now will be how things are done into perpetuity, even if there are no rule changes or law changes. I think there is the potential for congressional action, and that's the only place where this can materially change from a rule standpoint. It's the only place. The NCAA can do what it did yesterday with its clarification, etc. That's not going to have a material impact on what's actually happening. It's just going to have a cosmetic impact on what's happening. The only thing that can materially affect the way business is done now is a congressional bill that says this is okay, this is not, this is how it's going to work from now on. And that what people don't always think about. In the past, when you violated NCAA rules, only in the rarest exceptions, and I'm talking about somebody who was not involved, if someone not involved in the NCAA, not an athlete, not a coach, not an administrator, but an outside person like a booster, the impact on you was very minimal. You might get dissociated, so there's a little bit of embarrassment, and you can't go to a game. But most of the repercussions weren't extreme. But if the federal government puts in guidelines for what is and isn't okay in the NIL world, You violate, then you're violating a federal law. You sure you want to take them on? So that would be the best case for the security of college athletics as we've, in more or less as we've known them.
It's one thing to be suspended. It's another thing to go to Leavenworth. NCAA enforcement staff was directed to look for possible violations that might have occurred before May 9th, 2022, but pursue only those actions that are clearly or contrary to published interim policy, including the most severe violations of recruiting rules or payment for athletic performance. Does Nigel Pack, does that situation at Miami cross the line, you think, or do you think they'll go after that situation, or no? Or
I think ultimately no. I don't remember the gentleman's name who runs the Life Wallet company.
Ruiz, yeah.
He said, "I'm an attorney. We're good. I know what I was doing, and I knew what I was doing, and so I suspect that when that gets to the end of it, that you'll find that he did follow procedures properly." And that Miami and Mr. Ruiz will not be in any sort of jeopardy.
What can they do is my question. What line can they even draw?
You mean the Congress?
Well, yeah. I mean, what can be ruled as out of bounds as far as I don't think you can't set a limit on the amount of money. I guess.
No. It will have to be. It will have to be if the government were to get involved. I would suspect that the first priority, rule number one, will be name, image, and likeness means name, image, and likeness, and that is if you're going to first of all anything that you do as a business, which in the past a lot of cases the NCAA clamped down on, but anything you do as a personal business, YouTube stuff, Instagram stuff, T-shirts. Gear that has your name on it, that sort of thing. Maybe you even can do a deal with the school so that you could sell like good old State U jerseys with your name on it, or have the logo of the state, that sort of thing. I mean, that might be allowed. Endorsements, endorsements where like Porsche gives me a car because I'm such an obviously great athlete. And then I do, maybe some appearances at their dealership or some TV ads or whatever they might want. Those sorts of things that'd be rule number one. And then I think rule number two, to simplify this as much as possible, would be no payment for your performance. So you can't pay an athlete to come to your school because they're a great quarterback or a great point guard or a great lacrosse player or whatever. You can't do that through these, this collective concept, which appears, at least in appearance in a lot of cases, is used as a recruiting inducement. That's, that will be something that I think that would be the NCAA and the conferences would lobby for that to be out of bounds. They're totally cool, I think, at this point. Although, they could have set these rules a long time ago if they were totally cool 5, 6, 7, especially 8 years ago when the O'Bannon case came. If they were cool with all that then, we'd be in a much different place today. I mean, lots of athletes would have gotten paid for how they, for their name, image, and likeness, for the brands they built up, Zion Williamson being by far the most obvious example. Zion, on his brand appeal, would have made multiple millions of dollars during his freshman year at Duke, based on how quickly he became a superstar. He would have made a lot of money. But unfortunately, the NCAA and its membership were much too reluctant to enter this world. And as a result, the rules were written for them. And then eventually, a lot of the states even abandoned those because other states didn't have rules. So the NCAA said, we can't police any of it.
And it's just because it seems like that is already kind of set with the NCAA. You can't you're not supposed to do certain things with the NIL, but they're doing them anyway. You're not supposed to use it as an inducement, but remember when Texas announced that any offensive lineman that came there got $50,000. So it's like it's supposed to already be there, but is it not? Is it just there in in theory.
Well, it's the language of the rules versus the language of the word inducement, rewards, monetary rewards, let's say. That it's basically a linguistic battle, but the NCAA has no legal standing here because they were obliterated in the Alston case, and so they remember, even more so than losing 9-0 on the Alston case, the bigger problem was the opinion of Justice Kavanaugh. That, what do they call it when you don't write the result, but you do like a supporting opinion? I'm not a Supreme Court reporter, but you do like a concurring opinion or something like that, they call it. And he basically, in the text of his opinion, said basically, the metaphor I've been using is, go ahead, bring that weak stuff down the lane again and see how far we swat it into the seats. Is basically what he said. And so
that's in my house.
Yes, exactly. So they can't come back with, okay, now we're policing name, image, and likeness. Let's go. Because as soon as they put too firm a clamp on this, they're going to wind up back in court again, and they're going to lose again.
Billable hours wins, right? Because then you get the lawyers involved, and
Oh, the lawyers have done great in all this.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess Congress, but I just don't know where those lines can be drawn, other than, like I said, the inducement thing. But they can just change the language, and because of not being able to limit them in any way. So
you can't limit the number, but you can, like I said, you can limit it to that concept of name, image, and likeness versus an inducement. And I think it's possible. Obviously, it will take a better lawyer than me, whose entire, I have a sister who's a lawyer. So does that do me any good?
Hey, it's closer than me.
So that's about as far as I've got that, and multiple episodes of Law and Order. That's about it. But I think it's possible to draw that language. And remember, like I say to Kevin, I'm not sure if you were on yet. In the 10, 15 years ago, if you as a regular citizen broke an NCAA rule or induced a athlete to be on the other side of the NCAA rules, the repercussions against you were pretty. It was very rare for it to be extreme. There was the case in Alabama with a young man from Memphis who was recruited to Alabama that Gary Parrish wrote about 15 years ago or so. He's an offensive lineman, I think, or defensive lineman. There was that case, and that was about it, where a booster got into trouble, like real trouble, for being on the wrong side of NCAA rules. But if the Congress were to write a series of NIL regulations and adopt them and pass them and all that, the repercussions would be automatically you're in violation of federal law if you break those rules. So that's a problem. I mean, that and people will be a lot less eager to do that. Now, again, I have no idea if there's any appetite in Congress to do that. I know there are some who are working on it. And I know that George Klyavkov from the Pac-12 and Greg Sankey from the SEC were in D.C. last week to lobby to maybe sketch out some things for the Congress to look at. So it's not that it's not happening. Whether it ultimately succeeds or not, I don't know. But again, that's why I talked about the importance of the NCAA membership, from the conferences to the administrators, especially the coaches, to just relax a little bit as the association and the membership undergo this particular change, because there's no guarantee it's permanent, and any attack against what's happening, any severe attack, it could jeopardize the future of the NCAA.
And Emmert, I remember Emmert and Mark Few. Remember last year they went to Congress, and a lot of times Congress was just shooting them down and saying, "Hey, look, well, you guys don't have guaranteed health care for athletes, and you guys don't have, you know what I mean? That, like, they want more support for athletes as well." It seems like.
Yeah, and those are things that should be in place, Kevin. I mean, it's inexcusable that the NCAA and its membership have been so reluctant to go into those directions. Meanwhile, they're building new facilities and hiring multiple coaches, not coaches, staff members to deal with all of this money that they have. And I understand that like not every school has that money, but you compete at the level that you compete. The MAC is not the same as the SEC, and it's never going to be, and shouldn't necessarily be. There's a place for athletes in the MAC. Some of them are NFL prospects, some of them are not, but there is something valuable to the athletic experience at Ball State or Miami of Ohio or Toledo or wherever. Even if you're not competing at the highest level, there's a great value to it. But if you try to make it so that, well, the SEC has this, so therefore Toledo should have this, I mean, it's not logical.
Nick Saban has 30 analysts to try to break down 3rd and 1 on the staff. You know what I mean? On top of the 8 assistant coaches.
If you can have all that, you can have extended medical insurance for athletes who get severely injured while they are competing.
Yeah, the NCAA is worried that basically the athletes are going to be determined to be employees. Is their biggest fear.
And it's another reason, Jim, why they need, because that's not a good step for college athletics. And the reason I say, because once you make them employees, okay, so men's and women's basketball and particularly in football, they generate, or in some cases baseball, and depending on the region, the community make some money. Obviously, football and men's basketball make a ton of money. But like lacrosse doesn't make any money most places, and soccer doesn't make any money most places, and softball doesn't make any money most places. So are they employees? And how do you draw the line between the athlete? I mean, so that's a problem. And then, if they are all employees at that point, do you have problems like, okay, so football generates a ton of money. So a star quarterback would be worth a ton of money in an employee or employer relationship. But how do you gender equity that? Because you have to at least have some numerical balance, but wouldn't you also have to have income balance? I mean, it's a problem on so many levels. So
now, I'm sorry, Mike. Right now in college sports, you have that system where football and basketball are, subsidizing the non-revenue sports. And the NBA is subsidizing the WNBA. I think they could probably evolve into that model where the businesses that make money subsidize the businesses that lose money.
Well, I understand what you're saying, Kevin, but there would be a disincentive to even sponsor, a lot of that, because in baseball or wherever, you're not making any money, you're just losing money.
Well, Tony's not going to bill us for his hours. He says he is a lawyer and is an opinion that he has an opinion that agrees with he says an opinion that agrees with the majority result is called a concurrence or a concurring opinion, and he's not going to charge us for that. So
appreciate it, Tony. Thank you.
Thank you, Tony. Thanks for listening. What's up next for you, Mike?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing some of the NBA Combine next week. That's my first NBA Combine. Wow. I used to go from mid 90s till late 2000s. I was going to the NBA pre-draft camp when they changed it to the Combine, and fewer and fewer athletes were coming back to college because there wasn't name, image, and likeness. When that happened, that it wasn't necessary for me to be there. And so we were sending our NBA people to that. But because it's close and our NBA writer is involved covering the playoffs, so I'm gonna get a chance to go up there next week and see what that's like. I've not seen what the new Combine approach is.
Looking forward to hearing about that and talking to you about it. Well, enjoy your week. It's going to be a great one. Finally, we're finally getting some good weather, man. I know you're not big golfers, but get out, walk. What are your outside sports?
I think that's it. I think at this point, that's it. Walking is about it. So I will get out to the neighborhood and see what it looks like these days.
Mike DeCourcy from the Sporting News, Fox and BTN. I can't thank you as always, man.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Kevin.
You bet. We've got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our good friends at Feast Market and Cellar. Feast Market and Cellar, located right next door to Southern Stone, of course, on Patterson and Rogers in Bloomington. They have an extensive wine selection with a sommelier on staff. Do you know what a sommelier is, Kevin?
I do not. Enlighten me.
A sommelier is an expert in wine that it is a level. There's only so many in the world, I think, but you have to reach this level of expertise in the wine industry to be a sommelier.
Kind of like Paul Giamatti in Sideways, right? When he pours the wine over his head,
And you put it in there and you swirl it and you stick your nose in there and you drink it. Yeah, absolutely. Well, they've got that. They also provide a wide variety of cheeses, gourmet sandwiches, entrees, a coffee bar, bread, and pastries, all that are mouth-watering. Make sure you stop by Feast Market Cellar because they help us provide the content to you. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Back with it right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington or
Normally we have him on for one more segment, but maybe there's a reason. What do you say? Oh, you didn't realize? You didn't know what time it was? No. It's all right though.
We'll just
do a you'll have about 10 minutes here just to do something with Kevin. Since you didn't really have your opening segment with Kevin, you can kind of treat it like that. And then we'll take another break. You say, what are we going to talk about? Well, we talked earlier
what did we talk about?
We talked about Jordan Hulse a little bit. We talked about Rhett Lewis.
I said there's plenty to talk about.
Oh yeah, there definitely is plenty to talk about. Yes.
You go to the bathroom, Jim, or what are you doing?
I'm getting some coffee.
Yeah, that's what I was going to guess. Coffee.
I need some coffee.
I'm in the employee lounge making coffee.
He's in the employee lounge. I mean, it's about, I know this is random, but I was thinking about cutting my grass, and I was like, it's almost wildfire season out in the West, isn't it?
Yeah.
Not that that's funny, but I feel like, why can't they get that under control out there? Is it really that impossible to take care of?
It's just the drought conditions are really bad there.
Has it always been like that? I feel like they just brought issue to it a few years ago.
Yeah, now it's the
Having a super drought.
global warming.
I mean, I'm sure that's a big part of it. I just feel like up until like, I don't know how many years ago all that stuff started happening, you never heard about that kind of stuff out there.
Yeah. I used to drive out there a lot, and it would be crazy. You'd be driving down I-5, and you would see, like, turn to your left, and in the mountains by Oceanside, northern San Diego, there'd be freaking blazes.
Wow.
I think the world was coming to the end. They'd be like, oh, it's just a wildfire. They're used to it out there.
Here we go.
Brews, live music Friday and Saturday, and fun for the entire family. Where else can you get all you can eat, listen to great music, enjoy it all on a beautiful Southern Indiana spring night? Let's kick summer off early. For more information, go to the Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page.
This segment is brought to you by Courtroom Sports Grill in Bedford. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio here on this Tuesday. Tuesday. I hope your week is off to a good start. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers is with me as always. We just spoke with Mike DeCourcy. A lot of things popping yesterday, Kevin.
Yes, yeah.
I was about to walk out to play golf. I'd worked all day, and so we had a late day tea times, guys. And then all of a sudden, about 45 minutes before I'm going to leave, bam, the Jordan Holes announcement comes out, along with Steven Surface. And then they wait about a half an hour, and then they throw out the Rhett Lewis thing. I'm like, come on, man, I was done working today. And you talk about it just wrecks your day, man. You got to go back to work. And I was like, crap. But all that stuff hit kind of yesterday out at the same time. Boom, boom, boom. A lot of changes going on for Indiana. A lot of changes in the broadcast booth, by the way. A lot of new voices that people are going to be hearing. On the football side, Rhett Lewis, of course, the new color analyst, sitting next to Don Fisher. But you're also going to hear, well, it's not official yet, but Joe Smith is retired as well. So a new pregame halftime guy as well. So there's a lot of changes all at once.
Yeah, and Joe, what a great guy Joe is too. Where he's going to be sorely missed. I'm a big Joe Smith fan, and is he still going to be doing the high school games or no?
Oh, I think so. Maybe. I'm not sure if he's retiring completely or not.
Yeah, and so that'll be a loss. But Rhett is very accomplished. Very good at what he does. I think that this is a good move. I mean, based on all his broadcast experience, the fact that he's an IU guy. But he's done a lot with Sirius XM too, and with the NFL Network. So he's plugged
IU
into
has.
the
I
world.
can tell you this: Indiana has never had a broadcaster with the experience that Rhett Lewis has, and that includes Don Fisher. Don Fisher did not have the experience when he took over the Indiana job that Rhett has. So yeah, Rhett is certainly accomplished. As a matter of fact, generally in the past, the color guy for either sport has just been someone related to the program in a way. Buck Sewer, of course, is a former coach on the basketball side. His son, Eric Sewer, was a walk-on the basketball team. And you don't need a lot because Don Fisher is the show on that broadcast. Make no question about that. That's what people want to hear. It kind of reminds me. Have you seen Winning Time yet? The docu-series on the Lakers?
No, I've not, but I've heard a lot of good things about it.
Oh, yeah. It is great. But one of the greatest things is, and I did not know this, Pat Riley started out as basically a putz position. He's like basically finding work for him. He ended up being a sidekick to was it Chick Hearn?
Right? Yeah.
So but Chick Hearn had this deal. Here's how he told you to shut up. He said, "You see that fist?" He said, "That's you shutting up. That's you talking. That's you shutting up." When he made his fist. And they would be on a broadcast, and he would get like 5 words out and telling a story or telling about something, and he would give him the fist. And he'd always say, "Trust me, you'll learn that you're getting fisted without even knowing it." He goes, "Oh, I'm feeling it now." So It's pretty funny, but pretty funny moment on that. I've watched that series. It's actually hilarious. But
maybe you should do that with me, right?
Should do what?
You should do that with me. You could do the fist with me, when you're talking and when I'm shutting. Yeah.
There you go. Our staff lawyer, Tony V, wants to know is whether the NIL contracts will be publicly disclosed. No, they're not. I mean, some are just because the Nigel Pack thing. I don't know why that
Ruiz, just want to blurt it out there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, because they don't, and I don't. That's something I don't agree with. I think that they should have to be public, especially you're going to a public university. You're
Well,
making money because of
Yep.
attending that public university. You're making money because they gave you a scholarship to attend that public university. So I think that too much is given, much is expected. Why should that deal
Well-
not be made public?
Well, here's the thing that's going to be very fascinating. If these collectives become 501(c)(3)s, those tax documents are public documents. So an enterprising reporter can find out.
Yeah. Who was paid what, unless they find a way to, well, no, that'd still be hard to hide, huh?
You can get them. Let's put it that
Follow
way.
the money. You know what they say? There's 3 words, baby. Follow the money.
Yep, exactly. But
Follow
yeah, I was,
the money.
and you guys know that I'm a University of Miami graduate, and I was telling my friends, I'm like, why does Ruiz, why can't he be a little more discreet? Why does he have to blurt all this stuff out? Just let, do it the SEC way. You know what I mean? Like, let, keep quiet, be a little bit more, you know what I mean? Why, and my friends say, oh, well, he's a billionaire. He can do what he wants or whatever. And, maybe it's publicizing your business as well. Like, I get that aspect of it, but still, it's just, just keep it quiet. You don't have to, tell the world that you're paying this guy $800,000, just do it quietly and, let him, because then you had the Isaiah Wong situation where he wanted more money and then it got really ugly and really embarrassing.
Yeah. And everyone has always talked about there being animosity on a team. And I'm like, there shouldn't be, but that's was me thinking of someone being paid more that you would expect to be paid more. Now that's a different situation there, where you got a guy who's given nothing to a team, and you've got a guy who has been given his blood, sweat, and everything else, and they got to the Elite Eight last year, and you bring his dude in, he's like, wait a minute, what am I, chopped liver?
Yeah.
So I get that.
Yeah. Did you see, by the way, Mike Davis's son at Detroit is coming back, Antoine Davis? There were some rumors he was going to go to Maryland. There were some rumors that BYU was involved. He is staying, and he is going to disperse or apparently give some of the NIL money to his teammates at Detroit Mercy. Yeah, that's a nice NIL story, right?
That is
story
it. How much is he pulling in?
Didn't say how much he's pulling in, but apparently that's one of his things that he's going to stay and he's going to give whatever NIL money that
I believe he
makes
signed up with some a Chinese basketball company, wasn't it?
Yeah, I did not know that for sure, but
and that tells me I bet it's some decent money. So it's awesome of him.
Yeah, and Mike Davis is going to have his son back, and it's another good player that stays away from the Big Ten, right? Like Nigel Pack, staying away from the Big Ten. What if Antoine Davis was at Maryland and you had to face him a couple of times? He'd be pretty jacked up to come back to Assembly Hall, I would bet.
Tony says contracts with state institutions are typically subject to Freedom of Information Act disclosure, which Hoosiers for good. See, Hoosiers for good. See, that's the thing. They're going through these 503Cs. Hoosiers for Good, a nonprofit. Yeah. So that is everyone has their own NIL arm, or they will if they don't already.
Yeah, but they're not signing contracts with the school or public institutions. They're signing with private businesses. So that's.
But they're also trying to limit and to control these other collectives that are out there. I'm not going to mention them. Indiana has them as well, because there's no control over those people. There's just no control, and so the NCAA is trying to enact legislation enacted to do that, but their bite is so toothless. What in the world can they do?
Because of Alston, yeah, because it'll get challenged in court and it'll get shot down in court. I think that's probably the big fear from the NCAA's enforcement side. And they're also saying that NCAA enforcement, they don't have staff also. That's the other issue, because everyone's breaking rules, So it's just, it's the whole thing right now is just a complete and utter mess.
Well, and here's the funny thing is how did they not expect that this was going to be just like this? I mean, where else was it going to go? You've kept this bottled up for 12 years and let the pressure build up, like a champagne bottle getting more pressurized. It's like having a champagne bottle that already has the pressure in it, but then letting it getting more pressurized. And that's what's happened now. And now that pop has come off. But it's like, did you not expect this? Of course, it's the NCAA we're talking about here. But
I think too, I think too, they always thought, and this is the reason why they balked on this for so long or tried to put it off. They were always worried about the balance of NIL versus recruiting inducements. I mean, they've always been worried about that. Like, how do you regulate one against the other? And can you really do it?
They didn't regulate it when it was illegal, though. I mean, they look at all the crap teams that got away. Look, North Carolina, these teams that have gotten away with stuff for years.
Yeah, and that's LSU and the FBI probe in 2017, and it took them forever to enforce it also, which was ridiculous. I mean, you had Auburn go to a Final Four in 2019, 2 years after. You had Kansas go to a Final Four in 2020, win a national championship this past year, and they're still waiting on enforcement from 2017. That to me is ridiculous. That to me is, you've got to be faster and you've got to have your ducks in a row and hand out punishments more swiftly than that.
Yeah, well, we'll see. Hey, we got to take a break. We got lots more coming up here on Indiana Sports Speed Radio. And don't forget, this weekend, Kevin, what are you doing, man? I'm going to be down at the Harp Commons in downtown Bedford for the Crawfest.
That's right. That's this weekend. Yeah,
that's right. The annual Crawfest, 4th annual, sponsored by Courtroom Sports Grill, is back. It'll be down at the Harp Commons in downtown Bedford this Friday and Saturday night. Live music, actually Saturday night, headlined by Clayton Anderson, country superstar, and it's all you can eat. Live country music. The weather is going to be fan-freaking-tastic. Kicking summer off early, baby. So
I'll be in Indy. Grand Prix, covering the Grand Prix.
Go to the Courtroom Sports Grill Facebook page for more information on the Crawfest, because that's where I'm going to be. But back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Andy Moore Honda.
Do we want to touch the Steve Aird situation?
What is the Steve Aird situation? I saw it briefly yesterday.
Allegations of culture of fear, player abuse, kind of crossing the line between.
Did y'all see those Alabama? This is not related to what you're talking about, and I'm sorry for interrupting, but the Alabama fugitives got caught in Evansville yesterday.
Alabama, what? Oh, the prison fugitives?
Yeah, the prison fugitives. So it was like a prison dude and then one of the security people. He had like convinced the guard to let him loose, and they'd both run away together. It was real weird.
She killed herself.
Did she really?
She died. She shot herself when they caught him, and she died. Ended up dying.
Because she felt guilty for doing all that stuff, probably.
Because she was going to go to freaking jail. She was going to prison.
I don't understand. She worked in a prison, and then she was going to go to prison. Like, that's just that story broke while I was doing Terry Miners yesterday. Did you also know this? The only head coach, or not the only head coach, the head coach.
Not true. Not true. Not true.
That's not true.
The answer.
I know you know what I was going to say because you replied to it yesterday.
The answer is Fred Taylor and Tom Crean.
Those two people. So it's not just Tom Crean. But anyway, Kevin, what I was going to say for context.
And do you know who Fred Taylor is?
It has something to do with Ohio State.
Yes, but there's more to it than that. Great story.
The only coach to knock Kentucky out 3 times. Yeah.
Yeah. Let's save this for on air because this is actually a good story. I've got to come bring this full circle.
There you go. You got a million things to talk about this segment.
Let's see. So
you got that. You got the Alabama fugitives, and then you had one other thing we were talking about. Oh yeah, Steve Aird. Those 3 things. Here we go.
In today's tough housing market, reach out to Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty at cheryl@indyhomepros.com or 317-298-0961. Cheryl Sizemore from Remax Advanced Realty. Let Cheryl Sizemore get you in the home you want today. Cheryl@indyhomepros.com.
This segment is brought to you by K-Bello. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio, coming to you here on this beautiful Tuesday, brought to you by K-Bello Restaurant, located on the square in Bloomington. All part of the WOW Club. Make sure you join the WOW Club, by the way. It's totally free app to sign up for. Start earning WOW rewards today. WOW Club members earn exclusive discounts, dining dollars to spend, and more sent directly to your mobile phone. Just go to your Apple App Store or the Google Play Store. Sign up. It's free. We'd appreciate it. It helps us. And speaking of helps us, make sure if you're viewing the show on YouTube, make sure you hit that like button, please. It helps us tremendously. So like right now, if you're listening, just hit the like button. And if you're listening on
somebody hit a frowny face earlier. You've seen that top left. We have another, or not another frowny face, but I see somebody was angry about something.
Yeah, well, something. Well, who knows what it was? I wasn't. I didn't make them
while you weren't here.
I know I wasn't here yet, so you all made them angry. But but also either get your phone out or computer, however you're watching, and give me and Kevin a follow on Twitter at Jim Coyle ISB. At Kevin Brockway G1. What's the G1?
It was just from old thing from Gainesville. It was just what I made. I don't know if I could change it. Maybe I'll change it someday.
I believe you can change it at any time.
All right. I'll have to go into my Twitter account and
if it's, I think, maybe not. Who knows? I can't remember. Jordan Hull's coming home to Indiana. Big news. Which
I was saying this earlier. Do you think that will help Anthony Leal, like a Bloomington guy, having him back, and a guy that very similar just in terms of the background and so forth and everything? And I know that Anthony's probably worked with him a lot over the summers, right?
Probably it has to. One would think. Hopefully, it helps everybody, but. He was named team and recruiting director, which I don't know what team director is, but will
he get to work on the court at all?
He should be, because you're allowed 6 or 7 total guys now that can do it. There's more that can do it, and I think this must be a position that can, or they would not have put him in that position.
The other
that's
thing
what he's needed.
He's got his own AU team, right, in the state, and he's got his own account.
Well,
so he's got to he's got to have some ties around the state recruiting wise. He knows the players and so forth. So from that aspect, it seems like a good hire as well.
Of course. Yeah. JH1 is an AAU program, part of the Adidas circuit. So absolutely. And not just the contacts, the name. He's been playing pro ball for the last 9 years, which kind of it doesn't really keep him out, but now you aggregate 9 years of playing professionally and coming back to the staff. I've known about it for a little bit. They've been talking about it for a while. Jordan Hulls could have played. He's at the top of his game right now. He was planning on playing another year or two. He is still at the top of his game. So they went after him.
Yep.
He didn't. This is not something he was chasing. And I think it's I think it's a great move by Indiana, to be honest with you. It's a great move. I'm not used to saying that, Kevin. I'm just not used to saying that's a great move by Indiana. And this is not the first time. So things are going in the right direction for Indiana basketball, at least. We know that. They are making better decisions. That's what got them to where they are now, making boneheaded horse's ass decisions over the years. That's exactly why they are where they are. But turning this around now, so
what did you we haven't talked since last week, but what do you think about the opportunity of going to Vegas in December?
I think it's amazing. Not only that, the week later, Indiana plays Kansas.
Yep.
So again, I just following up on exactly what I just said. This program is churning now in the right direction, and it's picking up steam. You play Arizona, then Kansas in December on national television audiences. You play them well or happen to win one or both of those games, you are back in the national talking point.
There's some rumblings he wants to play in New York too, apparently.
Well, of course he wants to play at the Garden, baby. Who doesn't? And he has experience there, Mr. Nick.
Yeah. No, I think that would be it. Maybe you get Seton Hall in the Gavitt games to start out. You go to Jersey or something like that. That would be that'd be interesting.
Or
maybe
even
Shaheen
Villanova.
Holloway.
What about Villanova?
Villanova. Well, Villanova's pretty tough, but then again, so is Kansas and so is Arizona. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, they won't have their coach next year.
I'm surprised that he's because if you remember last year, it was a fairly soft schedule. But he's really ratcheting it up in year 2, which tells me that they've got a lot of confidence in what they have, and especially if Trace comes back, which will be interesting. I mean that's interesting that Mike is going to the combine, because Trace will probably be up there, and we'll see what he does up there.
Good question by Ross. He was asking, can Jordan Hull still have his AAU program, JH1, now that he is becoming a coach? Well, I think that no matter what, and I'll let Tony V weigh in on this, or on-air lawyer, counsel. I think that no matter what, they can always run the paperwork to where it's not in his name or whatever. They would do whatever is need be. I don't know that there's a current rule that prevents it, but it's an actual good question because that could be considered a recruiting inducement. So it's actually a great question, but his dad, JC, who basically runs all that stuff. Jordan's been in Germany, so all this stuff, he hasn't been running it. His name is on it, but he's not been actively running any of it. That's a good question, and I'm curious about that as well because they can't do things like coaches shows, Kevin. I mean, an assistant coach cannot have his own coaches show.
Yeah, and I think we're going to get Jordan next week on a Zoom. So when its season is over in Germany, so we can we can certainly ask him then. But I would think too, the time commitment to that. I mean, in the summer you're supposed to be recruiting, so I would think that Mike would want him on the recruiting trail for Indiana rather than coaching an AAU team. But certainly, if it's a family business, he could probably turn it over to someone in his family.
Oh, absolutely. It's not going to go away. It's so, but like that was my point. Whatever it needs to be done, they can put it in my name if they have to. So there you go. Yeah, it's the position that Walsh had.
Yep.
So, but yeah, I think he can instruct, and hopefully that's the whole point of it. Let's see. You talked about, you were going to talk about the thing that everybody was talking about on Twitter yesterday.
Steve Aird, yeah.
No, hold on. The UK thing. Someone put out a stat that it was Matt Jones, the well-known UK radio guy. He said he was incorrect, but he said he couldn't believe that the only person that had knocked UK out of the tournament 3 times was Tom Crean, who did it and did it from 3 different schools, which may be a record. But someone responded, no, Fred Taylor did it in the 60s, 61, 62, and 68. Do you know Fred Taylor was the coach at Ohio State?
Yes.
Do you know who played on Ohio State in 1961 and 62?
Bob Knight. Bobby
Knight was on 2 of the teams that beat Kentucky back then as a player. So what, just an ironic big Indiana connection with both of the coaches that have knocked Kentucky out of the playoff or out of the NCAA 3 times. It's Tom Crean and Fred Taylor. But the Indiana connection, obviously, Indiana knocked them out in 2016. And of course, Bobby Knight did with Ohio State, along with Jerry Lewis Jerry Lucas, John Havlicek.
Yes.
They had some pretty good guys on that team.
No, those were great Ohio State teams in the early 60s.
But that's the answer to that. Everyone saw that on Twitter yesterday. So
Knight was kind of a role player on that team.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. He was definitely a role player, without question. Make sure how much time we have left in this segment.
Yep.
John, should we?
You got a couple minutes to wait for Chronic.
Chronic's not going to be able to make it on today.
Oh, you can break now if you want then.
Let's go ahead and take a break and we'll come back and we'll talk about the Steve Aird situation, which, and how about our friends down there in Evansville listening on the Ref 97.7 ESPN, the Ref. Those Alabama fugitives caught in Evansville, man. The Alabama gang. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio, brought to you by our friends at Cabello Restaurant, located on the square in Bloomington, right in the heart. Visit Cabello to experience the taste and traditions of the Italian heritage right here in Southern Indiana. That sounds delicious, does it not, Kevin?
Absolutely scrumptious.
Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting Bloomington,
absolutely scrumptious.
There's my Mo Creek shirt I was wearing the other day.
Mo Creek, baby.
Mo Creek.
I just posted that story about the fugitives. I want to read up on it. So that woman, did she get like romantically involved with that guy, and that's why they escaped together?
Well, yeah. Yes, it was really weird.
That's what happens. She's probably like a lonely 56-year-old woman that.
Yes, I think she had a bunch of things that happened in her life that were bad.
Yeah, well.
Birds are chirping.
I know, yeah. Springtime.
Can you hear them coming through on my end?
Jennifer just tweeted exciting day in Evansville, and I'm responding, when is it not exciting in Evansville?
Especially recently. My goodness.
What else has gone on?
Because of the basketball program, all the stuff they've been dealing with. And they're also the home of that. We talked about this last year. I can't remember when this happens, but they have that weird festival where they eat like cow brains or something. I don't think it's cow brains, but maybe you all in the comments can correct me. I know you all have a very weird delicacy in Evansville. We talked about it on the show last year, Jim, whenever they had it. Yeah, someone in the comments from Evansville, let me know if I'm right about it being cow brains or if it's something else. I know it's something very exotic, though. Exotic? That's sick. Okay, yeah, 5 lefts. 5 lefts confirms it is cow brains.
Jesus, that's disgusting.
So they got Evansville's. Is it like the black sheep town of the rest of Indiana? Jennifer says it's the fall festival that they serve those. And Brad Nix confirms it's called the West Side Nut Club Fall Festival. That's the perfect name for that, I would say.
It's got a little bit of a...
Here we go.
Pilots, see dealer for financing deals. Andy Moore Honda, Bloomington's #1 Honda dealer. Get more to your door with AndyMooreHonda.com.
Come see us at the all-new Andy Moore Honda, now in Bloomington.
This segment is brought to you by RE/MAX Advanced Realty, Indy Home Pros team by Cheryl Sizemore. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
I hope you're having a wonderful Tuesday. Looking out the window, it looks a little cloudy, actually.
Yeah,
But
overcast
supposed to
day
be
here.
nice. Yeah, it's supposed to be nice, though. But
Yeah.
yesterday was fantastic. I'm just worried, like I've said all
Beautiful
along,
day.
we're not going to have a spring. We're just going to go right into summer.
I
90 degrees tomorrow, man.
Yeah. I got my hair cut yesterday.
Oh, wow. I did not notice, but congratulations.
Yep. I
Congratulations.
thought I was going to have a
for that.
nice, easy day, and then all that stuff broke yesterday. Jordan Hulls and Rhett Lewis, and then
The Evansville?
IDS,
Oh,
the
yes, and the
the
Evansville
IDS
stuff.
doing the story on Steve Aird, which was
Yeah, that was that's a
interesting
big time
investigation.
thing. I mean, that might be as big a deal since Bob Knight. As far as the level of allegations, I will say. Right?
Well, and I mean, I think the alarming thing is, if you remember, and 3 years ago we went, and we saw some practices, and he had that big time class coming in 2019 that they thought was going to turn around the program. 15 of 25 players that Aird has recruited have either left the program by transferred, kicked off the team, or quitting volleyball. And according to this article, Evan Garricky did a pretty good job of investigating it from the IDS. Give him credit. Ran lengthy punitive drills, players that made mistakes that led to players vomiting, dismissing mental health claims by telling them to quit instead of, going to seek counseling, and commenting on the weights of female players, saying that they were too fat or too skinny, which, is obviously dicey when you're dealing with young women age 18 to 22. There's a fine line there, I think, between obviously, wanting to be in shape and being conditioned, but making comments about their appearance. Don't you think?
Yeah, well, absolutely. Without question, there are certain things that you have to steer away from. And, in reading the story, I'm like, all right, I wanted to not, most people, they're going to read it and they're just going to jump and say, they assume what they read, everything is true. I'm not saying it's not. I don't know, but I don't know. So I'm like, it's very interesting. It certainly has perked a discussion. And while there are 6 players that are talking. There's a lot that aren't. So,
well, 4 from IU, 2 are from Maryland. One was
No.
from Maryland. Yeah.
I thought it was 6 from IU and 2 others from Maryland.
Yeah.
Or is
No,
it just 4?
4 from IU and 2 others from Maryland. Yeah. Yeah, according to the story. Here's the thing. I tried to reach out and I said, hey, look, if Steve Aaron wants to talk and refute any of this, I'm all ears. Have not heard back from IU on it. I mean, I'm sure you could do the same. But
Absolutely. They're not going to.
Yeah.
They're not going to. Well, as a matter of fact, there was Indiana launched an investigation. First of all, I was not aware of this.
Yes, in December, yeah.
What was that even made known?
No, they want to do that behind closed doors. Yeah,
that's another thing. I don't think you should be able to do that stuff in secret. I think that should have been disclosed, not just to us, but what about to future people coming here?
Buckley Amendment, student privacy. They hide behind that. It's a sensitive situation. That's we had a lot of those situations in Florida. Sometimes you have Title IX investigations. They are handled by a Title IX coordinator. A lot of times, the way to get that information is to know a lawyer that's representing the students. And if they
got Tony V, we've got Tony V.
Exactly.
But yeah, it's a serious. If you did not read the story, several former players, like Kevin said, 15 of 25 of his players at Indiana have left the program, either quitting volleyball, transfer, and both assistants have gone on to other jobs, better jobs. Also, you have to add, one of them went to Penn State, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
One of the tops in volleyball, and then Krista Van Sant went to Illinois.
Yeah.
Any place is a better job than Indiana in volleyball. They're the pits.
I think that's the thing too with your methods as a coach when you coach hard, and for how many years that Bob Knight was able to coach hard because he was winning. You know what I mean? And I think that there's a factor that goes into that too. Your methods are acceptable when you get results. Steve Aaron was not getting results. Every year his record got worse, and I think that that's part of it too. Players are going to buy in if you have a plan and a plan that works, but if your plan does not work, you're going to have some grumbling as well.
Yeah, it's just how does he recruit now? I mean, that's
and
there's just no way. Well, he's contracted.
Yeah,
you pay him, and that's another thing. Why is the volleyball coach at Indiana making $256,000 a freaking year for a crap program? And I don't mean that negatively towards any of the players or anything. I'm just saying they haven't achieved squat. $256,000. He's made $1 million. Yeah. So in the 5 years he's been here, after this year, which will be his 5th season, he will have made over $1 million just here at IU, which is great for him. And this is not a crusade. I know Steve, and I like Steve. So I don't know, man. I don't want to jump to conclusions about that, about anyone.
They found in the investigation that they couldn't fire him for cause, and if you let him go without cause,
but they cut the investigation short.
You have to pay half of his salary, so that would be the buyout. But they also cut the
investigation short, which nobody understood. They did it without speaking to any of the players. How do you do that? How do you conduct an investigation and not speak to any of these players that spoke to the IDS?
Yeah.
How is that an investigation? That sounds more like an opinion piece.
Yeah, no, that's it's how they did it and how quickly they did it. But and I think a lot of these players, I mean, the reason why they're not going public is kind of the fear of retribution, obviously, because they worry that Steve is very connected in the volleyball community, and it would maybe hamper their ability to transfer to other schools or to, restart their careers as well.
You know what? But if the things that are being said are true, if they are, plenty of people know that. You know about it, and that word gets out, and that word will get out amongst that sport. So, you know what? I'm not really buying that. But they could also be anonymous like that they were in this story, and which I hate. I hate having multiple anonymous sources because then anybody can become a source.
Yeah.
And make up whatever they want. But especially a situation like this, just doesn't seem like it was done very much in the open.
I think the fact that they got confirmed the fact that IU conducted an investigation and made recommendations to Steve Aird lends a lot of credibility in the story, though. The fact that, that was on the record, and the fact that Steve Aird has been kind of put on notice by the administration, hey, you've got to, treat players differently. I think that that says something. And they're supposed to be going on a European tour at the end of the month. The team that he's got. So, I mean, that will be interesting to see if going forward. But there's been, since the story has come out, there's been nothing as of yet discussing his job status. But that will be interesting to monitor in the next couple of weeks.
I don't know how you go forward. These players.
You've got this trip planned at the end of the month. What do you do? I guess you have maybe one of the assistant coaches run the trip or something.
Aren't some of these players that they talk to on the team?
No,
still?
They've all left the team. No,
they've all left.
Players,
okay.
Yeah.
Though they had all left. Okay.
Yeah. They have all left.
And that's one side. The other side of the story, you have to ask yourself, is it just some people being soft? I'm not saying they are. I'm just saying you have to ask that question. You have to look at both sides. I mean, first of all, being a Division I athlete is not easy. It's not meant to be easy. If it was easy, everybody would do it.
Yeah.
And not only that, you have to be pushed. You have to be pushed. Now, there are limits and ways to do that, and that has changed and evolved with society over the last 30 years. Methods that used to be acceptable, that when I was coming up, how you were coached. Trust me, I've said this before. I had stuff happen to me as a freshman in high school in football that makes anything I've ever seen Bob Knight do look like Candyland crap. And being yelled at? Please. Are you kidding me? We were always yelled at. We were always told we were worthless. Well, you don't listen to that crap.
I can remember.
You expected it. You knew it was coming because that's what a coach does. So we would laugh about it at some point.
Oh yeah,
say,
I remember early in my
so on the other side, I'm a little.
Yep.
Of course, I'm more old school, and I acknowledge that.
Yep.
So, but I'm like, man, I don't think I wasn't yelled at. Don't think I wasn't called a lot of things. Had the crap knocked out of me by a coach in football 3 times. I mean,
oh yeah,
I don't know.
Yeah, I had a high school soccer coach that was pretty rough. I had a boss in my first job in the 1990s that was rough and would yell, and but he made me better, and I respected that. And I still talk to him to this day. So there's something to be said for being pushed. I think you just got to know where the line is, where the limit is, and
but that's the problem.
Commenting on
that changes for every player.
Yeah, I think commenting on a female athlete's body appearance is a tremendously slippery slope, though, and especially if you're a male coach in a female sport, but that is a line that is something you just do not touch
unless there's something. I think you have to eliminate the male female thing, though, because if you're, I don't care if you're male or female, if you're overweight in a position, the coaches are going to tell you. Well, they used to. Dude, you got to lose some weight, or you got to gain weight. You got to do this.
But there's a way you say it, and there's a way.
See, but that goes back to what I was just talking about. I guess. I mean,
It's 2022. It's a very different era with body imaging and body shaming. I think you just got to be tremendously careful with that, and that impacts mental health. I mean, women can develop eating disorders, bulimia. There's a lot that can happen.
How are college sports going to be able to continue? I don't know how they're going to continue with everyone's mental health issues, with NIL, with the transfer portal. The NCAA on the verge of collapse. I'm waiting for all of college athletics to just collapse like Rome, baby.
It'll continue. There's too much money to be made, and there's too many people that are going to be able to, that are going to want to achieve. And I still think it's in a good spot, but I do think that there are issues that need to be addressed, and times change, and you have to treat athletes, like you said, differently in 2022 than you did in 1990.
And I was thinking, Aaron, I mentioned being paid $256,000 a year. Well, that's pressure. He's being paid $256,000 a year to produce. So he has to produce. He has to drive that train.
And to turn around a program in the Big Ten that traditionally has been a doormat, and the Big Ten is the toughest volleyball conference in the country. I mean, don't forget, 2 years ago, he beat Kentucky, one of the best programs in the SEC, right?
Well,
and then they finished 5-15, and they didn't.
That's another thing.
They barely won in the Big
Ten.
Yeah,
his record has just gone down every year. That's another thing.
But what does that tell you, that he can beat the best program in the SEC 2 years ago, and then go into the Big Ten and get completely obliterated? What does that tell you about how hard Big Ten volleyball is?
Oh, it's the best conference in the country. It's the best conference in the country. So, and it's not easy. It's not an easy job. You're coming into a program that was at the bottom anyway. So it's not like it's an easy job. You have to do things differently. Now, Tom Allen did it differently, but where are they now? That's right now. That's just been a blip. So
I was discussing this to someone who listened to the show about Tom Allen in 2020, and I'm believing this. Even though 2019 they had some success, when you look back at 2020 in the COVID year, I think Indiana tremendously benefited because no Micah Parsons at Penn State, no Nico Collins at Michigan.
I think the biggest thing
schools opting out, and I think they caught a lot of those blue blood, programs kind of on the downswing a little bit.
Empty stadiums. I bet the game at Ohio State is not what it turned out to be if that stadium has 102,000 people in it.
Yeah.
That's
true too,
changes.
Or Michigan State even, which they won,
Exactly. You go to these places that normally have 80,000 people who hate you, and that helped. I don't want to say it was a fluke because they played great. They played better than the other teams.
And they had a lot of talent and Michael Penix was playing at an extremely high level that year.
Yep, they were, and they just
when your quarterback plays at a high level, it helps
Well, and you had Kalen DeBoer.
No, you didn't in 2020. No, that was Sheridan.
2020. You're talking about 2019. Yeah, it was the first year after
COVID year, 2020, when they were 6-2 and 6-1, and they beat Wisconsin too. And Wisconsin didn't have any fans. Remember, on the road.
Yeah, that's it. There you go. That helps a lot. But
with Jack Tuttle at quarterback.
Yeah, well, we're going to find out who's going to be there this year. Let's see. We talked about Steve Aird. How about the Fugitives being
break first? Sorry.
All right, we got to take a break. We're going to take a break. Hey, don't forget, if you're in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, reach out to our friend Cheryl Sizemore. She's got 2 decades of experience. That could be the difference between you getting the home you want and not. Reach out to her, Cheryl at IndyHomePros.com. Back with more Indiana Sports Beat Radio right after this.
We'll be right back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Whether you're visiting...
Hey, Jim, I wanted to ask you, do you want me to clip that segment? Because I thought it was a really good segment, but it's also very touchy. I wanted to get your permission for that one.
Clip it.
Okay, cool.
Is what it is.
I just want to make sure you're fine.
Yeah, I didn't create that scenario, and I didn't say anything bad either way. I didn't take a side.
Then we will. Definitely one of the more controversial things that have happened recently with Indiana athletics, I guess.
What, the Steve Air? Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. IU football just offered Brandon Jennings again. He left Maryland for Kansas State, now leaving there and might join his brother at Indiana.
Wait, Brandon, who's his brother? Oh, the Miami linebacker, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Did I tell you I picked up some? I'm doing the Indiana football preview for Lindy's.
You're always doing something.
Making some extra cash. I'm gonna need it with all these. Well, I got the colonoscopy thing down to $90, which was good, but now the skin thing is.
When's the colonoscopy? Can we do that live?
No, we already did the colonoscopy, but I'm paying for it now.
Oh, you paid for it then, probably.
I did, yeah. No, it was kind of quick and painless, actually.
That's what she
Other
said.
than the prep the day before was not fun.
And then where you have to, I won't say on the air. Never mind. Dwayne, I think you're watching the show a little behind because we were talking about the pork brains and stuff about 25 minutes ago.
About what?
He's just put 3 comments in a row about the pork brain stuff, and that was back a segment ago.
Yep.
Oh, the cleanse for the colonoscopy is what Mike
says. Indiana baseball took 2 or 3 from Michigan.
Yeah, they did. Big on the road.
Kansas State linebacker.
Are they getting their act together, or is it too late for them to do anything?
No, I was listening to it on radio, and they needed some help to move up.
You got Louisville tonight, right? At Louisville.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Damn. What is today?
That's where I met you the first time, Jim. Before this was even a thing.
You know what? I'd drive down for that game.
Should be. Ask for Indiana Sports Beat Radio. This segment is brought to you by BB's Market in Bloomington. Now back to the Golf Club at Eagle Point Studios for more Indiana Sports Beat Radio with Jim Coyle, presented by Endeavor Hospitality Group and Andy Moore Honda of Bloomington.
Welcome back, Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Here on this Tuesday, Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers joining me. Jim Coyle here with you, as always. A relaxing Tuesday, but a lot going on, man, which is great. A lot to talk about. All that stuff broke yesterday with Jordan Hulls being named to the staff, which I've known about that for a month, 6 weeks, been holding on to that.
You should have gotten the scoop, right? Did you get?
Well, I knew about. I mean, I couldn't say anything because it wasn't done, and so they made it done. It's not like they're going to consult me.
You got to find out the day that it's done, and then report it like a few hours after.
Yeah, unfortunately, when Jordan's in Germany and 7-hour time difference, and all that. So, but speaking of Jordan,
I do remember though, because you were saying, that someone was going to come back from IU. I remember you hinted at it a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah,
I was thinking maybe it was Calbert Cheney. I wasn't thinking it was Jordan Hulls.
Nope. I tried to throw a little hint out there, but
is Calbert still with the
Pacers? Pacers, yeah.
He's still with the Pacers.
It would be interesting to know how many NBA teams have an IU guy on it.
Well, how about Vic is doing okay in the playoffs with the Heat. He's had some decent games. He hit some big shots to close that game too, and now that series is tied 2-2, Sixers and the Heat. But Vic is contributing there and is doing a good job coming back from those all those leg issues, that terrible tendon situation, and obviously it didn't work out at the end for him with the Pacers. But he's finding new life down in Miami.
Well, Miami seems to be a good place for a lot of people to go these days. Tom Brady wanted to go there very badly. Didn't work out too well for him.
But he's in Tampa. He's fine there, yeah.
Oh, yeah, he's fine now because he got caught.
Yeah.
He got caught. Don't forget to hit the like button, folks. If you're listening now, watching, hit the like button always. Give us a follow at Jim Coy ISB on Twitter. We would really appreciate that. That helps us tremendously. Kevin, what's your latest piece that you have out?
Well, I'm going to be doing some Indy Grand Prix coverage over the weekend, apparently, and I will.
Now, when is the Indy Grand Prix?
Saturday.
It's this Saturday, and it takes place. Is this through the streets, or is this on?
I think it's at IMS. Yeah, IMS. Yeah.
Okay, so it's strictly on at IMS. Big month up at the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, as obviously the Indianapolis 500 comes here in a little bit, but having the F1 series, that's big around the world. Not huge here, but certainly big around the world. But it's certainly cool to have two gigantic races in the same month at the track.
Yeah. No, it's gonna be amazing for sure.
Have you ever been to an F1 race?
No, I'm
Miami,
not.
maybe?
I'm looking forward to it.
I know they don't. They have one in Miami, don't they?
Yeah, they had. It was last week. It was at the stadium. By the stadium, they had the course there. So
crazy. Something I also learned, as far as TV, F1 will bring in a little over $1 million per race. IndyCar a little over $1 million. NASCAR almost $5 million.
Wow.
Big difference. I didn't realize it was that substantially different.
Yep.
But it is. You're not a big NASCAR guy, are you?
I know. I like the
New Yorker. New Yorker.
Yeah. I didn't grow up with auto racing, but no, I being in Florida for a number of years, being in the Southeast, number of like I said, but I thought NASCAR kind of hit its peak in the early 2000s, and now it's kind of
yeah, they were certainly from a spectator standpoint of actually showing up, I think, and then COVID really kind of knocked that off, but
you had some glamour drivers. You had obviously Jeff Gordon, you had Dale before he passed, you had and then Dale Jr., and then obviously Jimmy Johnson and Tony Stewart, right?
Michael Niehaus on our Andy Moore Honda hotline says the Nut Club Fall Fest is second only to Mardi Gras as the largest street fest in the U.S. They just donated $600,000 to local schools. Where is that? What's the Nut Club? What's that?
The Nut Club Fall Fest. I guess it's in Evansville, right?
This is the festival I was talking about earlier where they have the brain sandwiches.
In Evansville?
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. I did hear you call it the Nut Club Fest. Yeah, that is funny.
Name.
We were talking about baseball earlier. Indiana, what they can do. Michael says they are currently 7th in the conference and are in the Big Ten tournament as of this moment. That win was yesterday. They took a 3-game series
Michigan,
on the road over the weekend or yesterday. I listened to it, I think. Anyway,
the pitching is still not there, but they're hitting.
Kevin talked about getting his colonoscopy. Yeah, on ever listened to Bob and Tom, which I did growing up as well. Chick McGee a long time ago, he was getting. They had him do it. That is exactly why I asked you if you wanted to do it on air.
Yep.
They did that. He did. He did it. It was pretty funny.
The on-air colonoscopy.
Oh yes. Jeffrey hitting us up on the Andy Moore Honda hotline as well. Jordan Hulls just seems like a good guy, which he is. Love the staff now. Bunch of great coaches. He is. Mike Woodson is, I've got to say, he is growing into this role quickly as a college head coach. I think he learned last year that even though he has tons of experience and he has a ton of basketball knowledge and he has people around him with basketball knowledge, that it still has to be tailored. And it wasn't tailored. And I think now he sees that, you know what, we need to just make some tweaks and turns and do some few different things. I think he's doing those. He's doing it from a staff perspective. He's bringing his guy in, and this is not, negative against anybody else, but obviously he's more comfortable there. I don't know if there was a relationship with the Hulls, although no, his grandfather was probably gone. The story on the Hulls is why they're in Bloomington is because his grandfather was a part of Bob Knight's staff when he came here from Army to Indiana, take the Indiana job. I don't know how long he was on that staff. I'll have to look that back up, but which is just a cool story in and of itself. But how about that? I just thought about that. A third generation, you can't say 3 generations of, but that's never happened before. The grandson of a former staffer, a former assistant coach, becoming a staffer.
Yeah. And that probably speaks to Jordan's ability and his, that he's grown up around the game. The fact that you're talking about a third generation guy from the Bobby Knight tree, who knows Bloomington, has had success in Bloomington, and knows basketball in the state of Indiana. It makes a lot of sense on a lot of levels.
Well, and the Hull's name, like I said, that just reverberates through the state of Indiana, like hitting dropping a pebble in a water, man. It just reverberates on out. He's well known, had a successful run, overcame being, barely 6 feet, that typical ollie almost from Hoosiers, but obviously much, much better. But anyway, that the guy who had to fight for everything, that's Jordan Hulls. He had to fight for playing. He had to fight because he wasn't big enough. And he's played 9 years successfully and could play more if he wanted to at one of the top leagues in Europe.
44% career 3-point shooter too. Maybe he'll help the 3-point shooting. Yeah.
There's no question when he comes, he is going to be working on shooting for Indiana. That doesn't make it mean it's going to get fixed, but if you don't work on it, it damn sure is not going to get fixed. And I like the fact that a guy like Jordan Hulls is going to be there doing that, because he had no problems doing it. He had no problems doing it when he was in college, much less once you're a pro. But I think that he has, it's a mindset that these guys have to get either into or out of that has just left them in this churning deal that they just can't shoot worth a snot.
Yeah, no, it's something that's been, but I think you do some of that through personnel too. You got to recruit shooters, and Archie tried to do that. Rather, Mike Woodson tried to do that last year with Miller Kopp and with Parker Stewart, but it didn't quite pan out the way you'd want it to in Big Ten play and non-conference play. Both looked like they were shooting well, but you also need that volume shooter too. You need a guy that's going to be able to knock down 4 or 5 threes in the game. I mean, that would help as well.
And how about the timing? CJ Gunn coming in. He's a kid that he could be that guy. I sure liked him in high school. I like his confidence. He obviously has the shooting ability. So
he's got right now he has a very nice mid-range game. I don't know about his beyond the arc yet, but I think that could probably develop over time. But he's a really good rangy athlete too. That's what I like about him really a lot, is that the fact that he's athletic, and he'll be a guy that can get his own shot off and create his own shot as well.
Yeah, and if anybody can teach that, it's Jordan Hulse, because that's another thing he had to work so hard at, is getting his shot off because of not being the tallest or the fastest.
Yep. And that was the problem with Miller Kopp. Couldn't get a shot off.
Yeah, but see, Miller Kopp was what, 6'6"?
He's 6'7". You'd think he'd be able to shoot over guys more, but
if you're 6'7" and can't get a shot off, I've got no sympathy for you.
Yeah.
I mean, he was able to get a shot off before. So, yeah, that's a whole nother story.
We haven't talked about the fugitives yet getting caught in Evansville.
Oh, we haven't?
Yeah.
How much time do we have in this segment? Oh, we've only got 5 minutes left.
5 minutes left in the show. We're good.
Golly. Yeah, how about it? The Alabama gang. A little NASCAR reference. The escaped prisoner with the former guard caught in Evansville yesterday. I saw that and I'm like, what? And the funny thing is, they found their vehicle first, and the guys were like, well, they're not here. They're gone. They ended up finding him there. He's, I can't believe one of the cops said, I'd have bet $50,000 in Vegas that they were gone, which obviously they should have been gone. But they weren't. They got caught. That's a big deal down there in Big Evansville, man. Big doings. National news. But
they were hiding out since May 3rd. It's hard to believe they had been there that many days, but we're lucky we stumbled upon them today. So hiding out in Evansville. Where can you hide in Evansville?
Where can't you hide? I mean, it's not like it's just a nice small city with not around a large metropolis. I mean, you've got Indianapolis is 2 hours away. Louisville is almost 2 hours away. St. Louis is 3.5 hours away. Nashville to the south. So they're just kind of down there, quiet by themselves. But why they ever thought that they could stay in one place was nuts. That's stupid. You always got to stay on the
horse track down there, right? Indiana Downs, right?
Well, that's actually in Kentucky, although it's on this side of the river. It's the weirdest. It is the only spot along the river that on the north side of the river is still in the state of Kentucky. It's apparently because the river moved a long time ago, which very possible, I guess. So it's a weird deal. But yeah, that's crazy, man. Yeah, they said Jennifer probably passed them on the interstate. Yeah, why you guys? Oh yeah, we all of our Evansville listeners, man. Did you get? No one saw them. Yeah, Evansville looking for some 6'9" guys for the basketball team. That was just the wrong guy. Maybe that's how they found him. Maybe they offered him a scholarship. But yeah, Ellis Park. Yeah, that's I couldn't think of that. Ellis Park down there, right on the river. But it's on this side. I've been by there a lot because my daughter lived in Madisonville down south of there. But man, what's coming up for you this week?
Yeah, like I said, Indy Grand Prix coverage, and maybe a little recruiting stuff over the weekend and Indiana basketball stuff. It should be an interesting weekend.
Make sure you catch up and give Kevin a follow on Twitter, and please do so to myself as well at Jim Coyle ISB. And those of you that watch on YouTube, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. You have no idea how much that helps us. We greatly appreciate it. Like I said, give me a follow on Twitter if you would. Kevin Brockway from CNHI, cannot thank you enough as always, man. Appreciate it, and look forward to doing this again next week. We'll get to talk about the Grand Prix.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. First foray up there to IMS, it'll be fun, and we'll see what happens. But will be interesting too with Indiana sports this month, seeing what else develops, any more staff changes, any more certainly news regarding football and basketball will be interesting.
Let's see. Tim want to make sure everyone knows that New Albany's naming their court after Romeo Langford. Ross has got love AJ Foyt's car for the 500, red, white, and blue flag. Very nice. So I'm looking forward to that. I'm planning on heading to the Indy 500 this year as well. So I'm looking forward to that, doing that. But yeah. I hope today's a little calmer than yesterday. Everything broke, which is cool. We always need to have that stuff, but we'll be back to do it again all tomorrow, and looking forward to it. And Kevin, what are you doing the rest of the day?
Yeah, no, just working on some stories as always. It should be another day in paradise here in beautiful Bloomington, and maybe get out, do a little walk, and get some fresh air in this beautiful 80-degree day.
A walk. That sounds no good.
You gonna do some golfing or?
No, I got work to do. But I did notice yesterday. Hey, we've got listeners in 22 states. That is awesome. On the YouTube side, but man, thanks to everybody. Thanks to our friends down in Evansville on the REF, WREF, and WRBO at 89.1. You guys go out and have yourselves a great day. Kevin Brockway from CNHI Papers, thank you very much. Thanks to Mike DeCourcy, and Chronic will return next week. Thanks to John, the producer, of course. Most importantly, thanks to you guys. Without you, we don't have a reason to be here. But we're back tomorrow to do it all over again. Go out and have yourselves a great day. Until tomorrow, I'm Jim Coyle. I will see you on the radio.
Thanks for listening to Indiana Sports Beat Radio. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube page for more clips and team coverage of Indiana basketball, football, and more. You can also find full episodes and tons of other content on thehoosier.com. We'll see you next time for another edition of Indiana Sports Beat Radio.